what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Footcandle Films. Film news and reviews from two guys who really like movies.
This episode is brought to you by the Footcandle Film Society. For a schedule of upcoming screenings and membership information, visit the Society's website at www.footcandle.org.
Welcome, everyone, to Footcandle Films here on themesh.tv. I am Alan. This is Chris.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, 2015. Yeah. Everybody, glad to have you here. Our first show of 2015. We are officially talking about 2015. I think the last couple episodes we spent a lot of time recapping and looking backwards on 14. Ready for a new year, ready for some new movies, some new conversations. Chris, you got any movie resolutions for the new year? Any we talked a little bit about the films we're really excited about, but
right.
You trying to see more films? Do you feel like you're, going to try any new types of films that you're not used to?
I think a resolution that I'll have, and it has to do with another show here on The Mesh, is that I think one of my resolutions is that I will see 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, well, there we go.
So that we can review it on Chick Chat. Mary Margaret Baker,
yes,
the host of that show, has asked if we would do that. So, and I guess as part of that, I'm going to try my hardest to keep an open mind.
So that will be like the crossover special. That'll be like in our old sitcoms back in the 80s when a character from one sitcom would show up in another, and it was like a really cool deal. Yes. The Happy Days Laverne and Shirley crossover. Do you remember those? When Richie from Happy Days would show up in Laverne and Shirley? It was always pretty special.
Batman showing up on Scooby-Doo.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And the Globetrotters.
No, that's a great one as well. Good call. So we are going to have a special Footcandle Chick Chat sometime in the year. When is that film supposed to come out?
Okay, I can be...
You don't have it on your calendar?
I can be snarky about the marketing, right? I just suppose I can't be snarky about the film. They cleverly released it February 14th.
Oh, Valentine's Day. Right. So...
Nothing says love like a lot of
engage in some erotic S&M with your loved one for Valentine's Day. Right. Awesome. All right, let's get on to our actual show here. The films we have seen that we are going to review today. We've got two films to discuss. One, a film that may have flown under the radars if it hadn't been for some interesting hacking and cyber terrorism and other things going on around the world. We are going to be reviewing the film The Interview, starring James Franco and Seth Rogen, the one that infamously was pulled from theaters due to possibly North Korea, possibly Sony hackers, who knows. But movie theaters pulled it out. Then it went back online for distribution, and that's where we saw it, and we have a chance to review it. We'll also be reviewing another film, a little smaller film called Love is Strange, starring John Lithgow and Alfred Molina as a newly married couple dealing with some interesting and disastrous situations that cause a strain on the relationship. Two reviews that we're going to have. Then we're going to move into our some of our movie news items. Then we'll finish up the show like we always do, giving you a good recommendation of a film you may want to check out, either online or your old DVD cabinet. Who knows? I don't know where we're going to find these, but most of these should be available at least in some online format for you to check out.
And I'll say with that, the recommendations, a lot of the movies that we do talk about here, if you check our show notes, we're pretty good about trying to put links in there. So, if you're interested in seeing the movies, check out the show notes, follow the links, and you'll be able to find the movies.
Good call. Well, Chris, let's hop right into our first review, if we could. It's the Seth Rogen, James Franco comedy titled The Interview.
Hello, who this?
This is the Secretary of Communication for North Korea. Our Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un is interested in doing an interview with Dave Skylark.
Oh my God.
We will meet 50 kilometers west of Dangdong, northeastern China.
Did you just say China? And did you just say dong?
Mr. Rappaport, I'm Agent Lacey with Central Intelligence. You two are going to be in a room alone with Kim, and the CIA would love it if you could take him out. Take him out.
For coffee? Dinner. For kimchi?
No, take him out.
You want us to kill the leader of North Korea?
Yes.
What?
The Interview, Alan. To set this up, I'm going to go actually where we saw the movie. We saw it through iTunes. I'm just going to let some of the reviewers on iTunes set this up for me. Okay?
Oh, boy. I know where this is going.
Michael S.D. has a 5-star review. And it's
5
titled,
stars out of 5.
Out of 5.
Okay.
And it's titled Moving Picture. This is the most profoundly thought-provoking picture of our generation, comparable only to The Godfather in scope and Goodwill Hunting in depth. You will laugh, you will cry, and you will be exposed to a whole new world. James Franco and Seth Rogen have created a film that will go down in history as having liberated a country full of people. Okay? Next, we have Josh Gammon, and his is titled Hilarious, but it is only 4 stars.
Oh, so a little less enthusiastic than the first guy, but okay.
I really enjoyed this film. I found it to be just a little smarter than your average Rogen Goldberg film. However, cable news is painted with a much bigger target than North Korea or Kim Jong-un. Many of the best jokes come at the media's expense. Okay, now, balancing that nicely, we have the 1-star review from Job Ang. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Yes.
His is titled...
Our apologies if he butchered your name. So.
One of the worst movies I've ever seen is his title.
Okay.
I can't believe we as the American public made such a big deal about a harmless, terrible, crude, and irreverent film. It's funny at points, but not nearly worth how much hype we all gave it. Okay. Next up, surprisingly, I didn't know that he bothered, but Bono... 75 gave a 1-star review.
Bono's a big Seth Rogen fan. I understand, yeah.
And he titled his review Really Bad, and he leaves just this one pithy little statement: didn't make me laugh at all.
Okay.
So, Alan.
A wide range of emotions and opinions on this.
Yes, we have the 4 and 5-star review. We have the worst thing ever, to quote the guy on the comic book guy on The Simpsons. Alan, where do I fall? Where do you fall with all this going on?
This was a really tough one for me.
Okay.
And I'm afraid all of the media attention to the film probably put a different lens on it than it really needed to.
Sure.
I really tried to step away and say, forget all of the controversy, forget all the political ramifications and geopolitical stuff. Just watch it as a movie. Imagine none of that had happened. Because I remember this being advertised months ago, and I thought, I liked This Is the End.
Right.
That was the last movie by this kind of collective creative group. Had Seth Rogen and James Franco in it. And I think Seth Goldberg, is it? That's a writing partner. Am I getting that right?
Evan Goldberg.
Evan Goldberg, right. Yeah. Kind of a writing partner, producing partner as well. So, I was looking forward to this. I thought the premise sounds interesting. It's definitely unique. I like it. And I like Seth Rogen. I don't like James Franco. I really never have liked James Franco.
Okay.
So let me go to the likes first on the movie.
Okay. Since I kind of took the odd way of introducing, let me just give, for those of you who have been hiding in a cave or have maybe gotten amnesia recently, let me give you just a brief overview summary of the plot before you dive in.
That'd be great. That'd be good.
Really touched it, although I think you guys can guess, even if you have been hiding in a cave, that has something to do with North Korea. So anyways, Dave Skylark, who's played by James Franco, and producer Aaron Rappaport, who's played by Seth Rogen, run a celebrity tabloid show called Skylark Tonight. So, it's kind of not well thought of. People kind of jokingly, make fun of it and stuff, but it's a big show. Well, they land an interview with a surprise fan, the North Korean dictator, Kim Jong-un.
Yes.
So they then say, okay, cool, we're going to be serious. We're going to have the biggest interview of our lives. We're going to go over there. Well, right before they go over to North Korea to interview the guy, the CIA says, hey, we really dislike this guy. We think they're a big nuclear threat. They've been doing a lot of testing lately. We want you to assassinate him. Okay. Right. And now you see why Sony was hacked. But anyway, that's the capsulization of the movie.
Yes.
So now that we got that out of the way.
I will say with this, I generally was okay with the movie.
Okay.
There are parts of the film I thought were really well done and funny.
Okay.
I can't say that for the film as a whole. There is one huge dislike that I will get to a little bit later.
Okay, excellent.
That honestly, if that dislike was not in the film, I probably would be able to come out and say, I like this film a lot.
I can't wait to hear what that is. Okay.
So I will say, I thought Seth Rogen's performance character, he's playing Seth Rogen. There's no acting involved here. But he was funny. I really liked his character.
Okay.
I thought the guy they had playing Kim Jong-un was really good. Kendall Park. I liked his performance. I liked Diana Bang, who played Suk, who was the translator.
Yeah.
I thought she was really good as well. I thought this was a really unique story, which we don't always get a whole lot of these days. But I did like the fact that there was a story and a plot, and it was intriguing. I was honestly curious where they were going to go with it. I wanted to follow the story along. And there were some moments where I really did laugh. There were some funny moments that I thought were hilarious. So in general, I like the film, but there are some major things that are keeping me from saying that I liked this film.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Sure.
There are moments of this film I want to see again.
Okay.
But I'm not eager to see the whole thing again for reasons I'll explain in a moment.
Okay.
So generally speaking, positive. On my 1 to 5 star, if I had to go on your iTunes rating.
Or Letterboxd.
Or Letterboxd, I'm somewhere in the maybe 3 star.
Okay.
Maybe 2.5 if I'm in a bad mood that day. Typically probably 3 star.
Okay.
How about you?
Well, I'm on record on this show really disliking This Is the End.
Yes. But this movie doesn't have Jay Baruchel, so that automatically ought to help your situation.
That's true.
Right.
I had not thought about
Yeah,
that.
right.
Yes. But yes, so I actively really disliked 2013's This Is the End. I didn't see the other thing Seth Rogen was associated with, Neighbors, which came out this year, which you did see.
I did not like.
Okay,
I thought it was funny.
It was reviewed, you know, kind of favorably.
It was a good movie.
So this was my first chance to kind of, make nice with Seth Rogen and James Franco again.
Okay.
I'm kind of maybe the opposite how you are on Rogen and Franco.
Okay.
I kind of like Franco as an actor. I liked him in Oz, The Great and Powerful. Something about his, I don't know, he's odd. And I like the fact that he's odd in real life and odd on he's just that way. Whereas I kind of hold it against Rogen, even though he's fine, but he does kind of have this mold of doing the same thing over and over again. It's
very straightforward performance all the time.
But I think he's very well aware of that. Even like the patented laugh, which they should put out like a little, one of those little comic things where you can hit the button, you like have the Seth Rogen laugh. They should put that in like all the Spencer's gift shops because it would probably sell.
It's awesome.
But like you were saying with as far as all the ruckus that happened with Sony, I went into the movie trying to do the same thing. I said, okay, let's set all that mess aside and just do the simple rule with a comedy, which is, does it make me laugh?
Right.
And if it does make me laugh, okay, at least they're doing that right. How much does it make me laugh? Like, how much should I get on board? I was surprised that I laughed as much as I did.
Really?
Yes.
Good.
And I laughed a great deal.
Okay.
Because of some of the reviews that I kind of referenced in the intro, I thought it was going to be nothing but a lot of what This Is the End was, in my opinion, which was like really offensive poop jokes or like, sexist jokes, like all that kind of stuff. Now, not to say those aren't in there.
Oh, it's in there.
Because they are in there. But there's a lot of other stuff going on. Like you said, this actually has a plot. There's
a story, there's a plot, and I thought there was a little more going into it. Not deep, profound stuff, but there was a little more than the humor and jokes, Right.
And I thought that it had a good balance with trying to say something, but not trying to be a message film. Obviously, this is an R-rated comedy. And it wasn't heavy-handed because it never took itself too seriously, I thought.
Yeah, right.
So I was really surprised that, overall, I have a very positive review of this film. Maybe because I was expecting so little going in.
Could be. I think having it really with a true story really helped it.
Right.
Because This Is the End. Well, I will give you that. It wasn't really a story. It was more of a, hey, let's take a situation. Let's throw some funny people in a house together and just let them riff on each other.
Right.
And every once in a while, we'll throw something disastrous their way.
Right.
I get that. This actually, there is an actual plot. There's a story. You kind of want to know where things are going to go. You want to know how it's going to end. There's relationships. There's characters. It had a lot more going for it than a typical dumb comedy.
And likewise, maybe, again, it comes back to expectations. This Is the End, when I saw it, it had been out for a couple of weeks, and critics were just like raving about it, giving it really high scores. So when I finally saw it, I was like, really? This is supposed to be one of the funniest movies, in a long time? Whereas this one, nobody had basically seen it. Still, a lot of people haven't seen it because, it's very limited.
Online distribution is still not quite the common household vehicle. So,
I'll run, the positives, a lot of the ones that you've touched on were that Randall Park, who played the North Korean dictator, I was surprised at how nuanced his character was actually for a comedy.
Yeah.
Because it was fantastically comedic, yet sad. It was very sad.
Well, and I'll tell you, and I'm not going to spoil things necessarily, but he plays a part that for a while is played one way, and he actually had me fooled.
Right.
Okay. I mean,
Right.
I actually got fooled, just like Seth Rogen is telling them at the beginning, hey, listen, this guy's manipulative. He was manipulating me. I was watching and thinking, okay, this is the way they're going to play this guy.
Right.
And then there's a shift. I'm like, oh, okay. No, he got me too. I thought it was a really good performance. I liked it a lot.
I agreed. And a lot of the funny moments for me centered around, as with him, some of those were very funny with the Korean dictator and Skylark, but also the relationship between Franco and Rogen's characters, and how Franco was just, an idiot and completely self-absorbed idiot. And I really enjoyed how dumb he was. I found a lot of that. that funny.
We'll get to that in a moment.
Okay. And then I'll say too, it was unexpected. It was an unexpected use of music. But and interestingly enough, you and I had a conversation recently about, we both have young children, and how we kind of by osmosis hear pop songs. And one of the pop songs that's used, I think, to great effect in the movie is Katy Perry's Fireworks.
Yes.
And it was unexpected in the way they handled it. And not necessarily, I mean, you could say write it off as saying mocking, but I think there's actually something more going on.
And they
there.
use it twice.
Oh, yes.
One at the end, pretty interestingly, take on it. So, yeah.
So it was just, to me, that was very cleverly done. Something that I wasn't expecting. I was like, what? kind of took me back. Okay. So you've mentioned negatives. Let's shift
All
to
right.
those.
It's really one.
Okay.
I could not stand James Franco in this movie.
Man.
Can't stand it.
See, I could not have a better appreciation of his character.
No, you're so wrong about that. I'm sorry. He was forcing himself so hard to be this slapstick funny guy to where it was just grating, annoying to watch. I couldn't take it.
I did not have that experience at all.
There were moments of this I was just gritting my teeth saying, oh my God, just please could they have replaced him with somebody with a better sense of humor and comedy and timing. I like the part. The character is great.
Without giving any plot point of it, can you give me an example of something where you were really about to have to go to the dentist to get a plastic thing to put in your jaw so you wouldn't?
I'll try to. This is a common phrase that they kept repeating. That was a very PG rated phrase the way they say it, but the poop and pee does he not poop and pee or pee and poop or something like that?
Yes.
And it's just the delivery on even that line. I'm just giving one example where Seth Rogen can handle it so naturally, like batting it back to him. But James Franco just does not know how to do that comedic riff, kind of ad-libbing style.
Okay, obviously I appreciated it, and I think that speaks to his performance because his character is a boob. He is this guy who's trying to sell stuff, but he doesn't know how to ask questions and doesn't know how to phrase. You're right. Seth Rogen's very natural and he is smart and he could think about how to ask a dictator a question like that where it's claimed that he doesn't pee or poop and all Franco can think is he's trying to be Barbara Walters in effect, and in his thing he thinks he's better than he really is, and so
sure.
I took it as that, but I
have no problems with the character. The way the character was written, I totally get.
You just think
his delivery and performance of that character.
Oh, man.
It's just it felt forced. It felt like, oh, I'm going to be a funny comedic riffing guy now because I don't get to do that very often, and I'm going to say funny things and I'm going to bounce back really funny things. I'm going to have funny facial expressions, and everything just felt so forced.
Man,
and I did not feel natural one bit.
Wow.
Where when I watched This Is the End, you had Seth Rogen.
Jay Baruchel.
Well, Jay Baruchel, granted, he has the annoying tone and voice, but he still knows how to riff okay.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I'm drawing the blank. Wolf of Wall Street guy, comedic guy.
Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill. Those guys just know how to riff. They know how to deliver those lines where it just sounds natural and it's real. James Franco, I felt was forcing every bit of comedy he could out of his bones. He thinks he's funnier than he is, and that's the way he's playing that role.
Man.
It just didn't work for me.
Wow.
What I would have preferred, here's what I thought would have been hilarious.
Okay.
A young Steve Carell playing that part type of character where he can come across as this uber professional, but he can also be a moron in his head. Okay.
Okay.
That kind of character, that's what I wanted. James Franco just did not work for me in this role at all.
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned Steve Carell, because he was on board to do, I think it was a comedy, but it was based off a graphic novel about something about, and it was titled, I think, The Capital of North Korea, that Pyongyang, how do you say that?
Right.
But like he was supposed to do a movie about that, and that got scrapped when this movie got in trouble.
wow. Okay.
So it's interesting you bring him up.
Well, I was trying to think last night after I watched this, who could have played that part where I would have been really happy with that? And as somebody who knows to play that balance of, I'm a buffoon, but I know how to try really hard not to look like a buffoon on TV or all that. Instead, we got James Franco being an absolute buffoon all the time, and it was forcing that perception of a buffoon. I just could not stand his performance.
Sure.
So I wish there would have been somebody else in that part. I really do.
Well,
and I tried really hard to make sure it was not just my Franco dislike in general. But it did really, really hurt the film for me.
Okay.
In general. The only other thing with the film I didn't like, I mean, it was more just a personal thing. For this being a film that has gotten so much attention and so much of the world kind of focusing their eyes on it, I really thought that the intense violence shift in the last 20 minutes was just a bit much. Again, I'm not I'm not against violence in films at all. I will love the Quentin Tarantino films and anything else just any day of the week. This film just set a tone that in the last 15, 20 minutes, it did shift that tone. I normally don't mind that. I like when films kind of mix up their tones. But with this film having so much more outside attention, I just felt like it was more queasy to watch. It was more like, they really went kind of real violent with it at the end.
That's interesting, because I only have 2 negatives.
Okay.
So overall, obviously I'm positive on the film. And my negative, I didn't know about the violence necessarily, but which it plays into violence, obviously, because you can't have gore without violence, I don't think. But I didn't understand the overly gory moments of the film. Towards the end, there's a guy who gets shot in the head at point blank range.
Sure.
There's a character who loses several fingers by having them bit off.
Oh, yes.
And it's very Tarantino in the amount of blood and everything. And I didn't.
Oh, there's a tank rolls over a guy.
Okay, yep.
There was a lot.
I didn't understand why that was being done. It felt so out of place.
I agree.
And it bothered. I was like, I don't get that. I don't get it.
That was really a concern of mine. And granted, it did not make me not like the film.
Right.
It's just that last 20 minutes, it was just, I was a little more like, I really wish they hadn't gone to this level. I think they could have really finished this film up and made it a really good, strong film without going quite to this depth level of this.
Yes, there wasn't and there was also a lot of shooting and gunplay. That
was okay.
Was the violence specifically around?
It was more the heavy,
stuff?
gore violence.
Okay,
it's like the result of violence with the gore side.
Okay.
It was just too much, I thought, at times. The examples you brought up were exactly the ones I would have brought up. Again, I knew it needed to have a violent ending just because of the nature of where the film was going.
Right.
I just didn't expect a comedy, even with some political satire involved, to get quite that bloody, gory at the end. So
I'll say another negative that I had was the question of James Franco's sexuality, both his character and I think making reference to maybe James Franco himself, which they did in This Is the End.
Yes.
They made jokes about that as well. But I'm just kind of done with that. And they did it again in this movie. And it wasn't just once. It was like it came, in the first once or 2 times you're like, okay. But they kept doing that. And that just kind of got on my nerves because I was like, you covered that territory.
I blame James Franco for that. I'm sure it was probably his fault. I'm sure it was his fault.
Franco.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I guess kind of maybe as a wrapping up type thing for me, I'll say that I was surprised going into the movie because of, I guess, the negativity about North Korea, how sympathetic they were to North Korea and even at first to Kim Jong-un himself. And I would actually go on record as saying, yes, the tone does shift and you see different sides of Kim Jong-un, but in the end, I think some of the statements that Skylark makes and Seth Rogen kind of wonder about in the beginning when they first meet him, it kind of makes you wonder about the person Kim Jong-un is and how he got to be that way. Not whether he's good or bad now, but how he got to be who he is.
I agree.
And I was not expecting that from a fart poop joke comedy. So,
well, that's what I was saying. There was more going on here. I mean, it never got into what I would consider a political satire, but it had enough moments to say, you know what, there's something being said here. I will give Franco one scene that I did like.
Okay.
It's a scene where, and again, not trying to spoil too much, but about 2/3 of the way through the film, he's developed a certain kind of relationship with Kim Jong-un. He starts to question that relationship. And as he's kind of taking a walk on his own, he explores a supermarket there in the town square, right, and realizes some things about it that makes it kind of some realizations come out. I guess the reason I like that scene is, A, it is kind of saying something. You know, that kind of was starting to highlight some things. Some things are starting to click together for the characters.
Right.
And I guess I liked it too because Franco wasn't being a complete idiot or forcing an idiot in that role, in that scene. But, you know, it's scenes like that. It's like, okay, yeah, they are making some comments here and they are trying to really highlight a few things, and they are talking about the society in North Korea. I thought they did a good job with it.
How did you think the film's called The Interview?
Yeah.
Once they get to that actual interview, I thought that was actually written and handled pretty well.
I agree. I thought it was too. I mean, you kind of knew where it was going to go, but I thought the way they got it there was nice.
Sure.
I generally liked the film.
Okay.
I just really hated James Franco in it. And if there had been somebody else in that film, I could honestly walk out of that and say, that was a good movie. You guys need to see this movie.
Okay.
I'll tell you, I did bust out laughing a few times. The tiger scene I thought was absolutely hilarious.
Okay.
There were a few other little moments. Some of them I can't really talk about, but there were a few moments where it was just absolutely funny. Right. And the inside the tank with the fireworks song I thought was very funny. I thought, there was some really good moments.
Okay.
Yeah. So overall, we liked it. You liked it more than me, mainly because I don't like James Franco.
I think, yeah.
That's how we sum up our review here. We both liked it, except Alan really hated James Franco. That's basically the deal.
Right.
Surprisingly, I really did not expect to like it.
I didn't either.
So I guess that was a nice surprise too.
Actually, since I was watching it on my iPad, I could see the time ticking away. And the first 20 minutes, I was like, wow, this is good. I like this. I'm like, yeah, but I bet it's going to, and the time thing kept going. I'm like, wow, no, I'm actually going to end up liking, because it got past the halfway point. I'm like, no, I think I'm actually going to like this movie. I was surprised.
I think a lot of the negative reviews out there are from people who now, with this heightened awareness of this film, it's going to be this really bitter satire and it's going to be make so many political in jokes and all that. No, it's a dumb comedy movie that just happens to take place in a hotspot geographic area of the world.
Right.
If you can separate yourself from all the press out there and you enjoy a good, gross out comedy that maybe has a little bit more going for it than others, it's a good movie.
Well, and I'll say, because you and I are movie reviewers on this podcast, we're highly interested in movies. We started a film society in Hickory, North Carolina. There was no way that I wasn't going to see this film.
Right, sure.
Not because I'm a Rogan Franco fan, but after all that stuff, I'm like, I want to see the film that caused all this ruckus.
And Chris, this movie supposedly has made over $30 million from online sales, which is huge.
Okay.
That's more money than they probably would have made. I mean, definitely more money than they probably would have made their opening weekend in a movie theater.
Okay.
Now, granted, they've been on demand for a couple weeks now.
Sure.
But still, it's setting a bellwether to some degree to say that, you can put out a big movie online and make some money. Now, are they making as much as they would have made if it made to the theaters cumulatively now? Probably not. But I don't know, though. I don't know if that money is all because of the controversy or because they put out a new Seth Rogen, James Franco comedy online.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to watch that whole online distribution world in the future because of this one.
Not that, your crystal ball probably can't give you this answer or not, but just wondering, do you think comedy career of Rogen Franco, do you think this is going to affect them?
No.
Short term, long term, no.
Not at all.
No effect whatsoever.
I don't think it'll have any effect. I think there's enough people out there saying that this movie is really funny, like us, that enjoyed it to some degree, and to balance out those that say it's a bad movie. But I think the fact that overall it's going to help their careers because they're being seen as the ones who did make and star in a movie that
had some bad controversy.
And honestly, a lot of people are taking it as a patriotic thing, which I don't get patriotic. There's nothing patriotic about this, really, for this movie for the United States. But anyway, I don't think it affects them one way or another. I really don't. I think everything kind of counters each other out. Kind of like your reviews that you started out this review with, your online reviews. You got the 1s and the 5s. In the middle, you're going to get that nice 2.5, 3-star review. And so that's a moot point for them. It's not going to affect their careers any, I don't think.
But you have to admit, the Michael S.D. review, the moving picture review, where he compares it to Godfather and Good Will Hunting. That was an awesomely written
Oh, it's
review.
awesomely written. It's ridiculous and full of it, but I'm sure.
Michael S.D., because that's the name you give, if you want to write in and give us like intros to our next couple of shows, feel free.
And please
amazing.
compare every movie to some of the most prestigious films ever made in film history.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to our second film, a very different film.
Yes.
It still involves two men. With a relationship and going through some challenging times, but a little more on the somber, serious side here. This is the film Love is Strange.
We are gathered here today with the purpose of uniting in matrimony George Esteban Garea, Benjamin Arthur Hull.
Word got out to the Archdiocese. You've all known this whole time that Ben and I have been living together.
The decision is effective immediately.
Now, we invited you all here today because, well, you're family. With my private lessons and Ben's pension, we need a place to stay.
Love is Strange, which, interestingly enough, distributed by Sony Pictures Classics. So a little connection point there with our first one. Yep. Love is Strange stars John Lithgow as Ben, Alfred Molina as George. They've been together nearly 4 decades as a couple, homosexual couple, obviously. They finally get a chance to tie the knot in a very nice wedding ceremony in Lower Manhattan. And this all happens in the first 10, 15 minutes, so there's not spoiling the plot for you here. But basically, George loses his job, which we are to assume that George is the only one really working. At that time, I think Ben was on a pension at that point.
Right.
And loses his job. And, of course, this being New York City and high expensive apartments and everything, they lost their apartment. They just can't afford to keep it. So that puts them on a quest to find places to live, which unfortunately means they have to be separated for a while because we are New York City. It's not like everybody's got these huge spacious houses with tons of extra room.
Right.
Generally in these apartments, they may have one extra bed or a couch where somebody can sleep, and that's about it. So we do have these two men who have been together almost 4 decades and finally had this moment of getting to get married, and now they're forced to be separated. The film kind of starts to explore a little bit of multi-generational dynamics of love and relationships and how these two individuals' relationship and the trials they go through affects those around them as well. We've got other people starring in this, like Marissa Tomei, who stars as the daughter-in-law of the Ben character. We've got Cheyenne Jackson as a police officer who is a friend of the married couple and is where George goes to crash for the time being as well. Chris, with this film, Love is Strange, the director I'm not familiar with. This is Ira Sachs. I looked at his filmography and I really don't know any of his film work.
He's made like 4 or 5 films,
He
I
has,
think.
but I'm not familiar with any of them.
Neither was I.
This is a film that is a short film. It was a fairly straightforward film that's really carried by 2 characters' performances. You've either got to buy that relationship and you've got to buy those performances, or you don't buy the film, in my opinion. So let me start it off to you. Did you buy the 2 characters, the lead characters, and their relationship in the film? And did that help you to enjoy or not enjoy this film in general?
Alfred Molina does not get enough work. I bought his performance and thought he was just amazing.
Okay.
And I've never really thought about him much before.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him in that many things. I think the second Spider-Man movie
He was Dr. Octopus.
was one of the more bigger roles that I've seen him have. And so I wouldn't say I was a Molina fan, but this movie, he just really, the cop-out word that I'm going to use is just gravitas. He just has this like solemnity and the look in his eye, like the smoldering kind of when he's getting cranky. It's just amazing. So his performance, 100% on board with, thought he was amazing, believed the character, helped me get into the movie. Lithgow, I think I still have kind of a Third Rock from the Sun vibe from him and have in a lot of performances, which was a TV show he did.
Yeah.
And I've never really thought much about him one way or the other. In the beginning of the film, I guess, at the wedding reception, there were some happier, jokey moments. And I thought, I don't think I'm going to be able to get on board with his character.
Right.
But not long after that, things shifted. That kind of jokingly jokey John Lithgow that I know kind of fell away.
Right.
And I then did buy into his performance, and I liked it.
Okay.
Do I think he's maybe overshadowed by Melina? Yes.
Yeah,
But,
I would give you that.
but no, the performances were both good.
Okay, so did that lead you to say that you enjoyed this film, or did you?
I did.
Okay.
I did enjoy it.
All right.
It was interesting going into it. I knew the bare minimum. I knew, like you said, it was about a couple that had been married, and then they were going to have some trials and tribulations. And the only thing that I could think of off the top of my head where a gay couple was portrayed on screen was The Birdcage with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane.
Quite a bit different.
And a married couple. I guess I don't know whether they were married or not, but they were definitely together and had been together.
I don't think married, but yes, together.
Right, but
they were lifelong
for a long time.
Sure,
they were life partners.
Sure.
And that movie just played, of course, it was a comedy, Mike Nichols' film with Robin Williams and stuff, but it just played everything for laughs and never really gave you anything profound.
Well, it definitely played up the more flamboyant stereotypes of a gay couple,
right? And,
which this film absolutely does not. I mean,
and I think going in, I was afraid that even though I knew it was a drama, but I knew there were going to be some moments of humor. I was afraid that it was going to remind me too much of The Birdcage. And The Birdcage wasn't trying to be didactic.
Oh, The Birdcage is a great movie.
It was just a comedy.
It's just this is a very different movie,
right? Broad, slapstick comedy. So I was impressed with how they didn't play it for comedy, and they didn't try to rely on a lot of typical portrayals of the homosexual community.
Yes, I agree.
They focused more on these are two human beings.
Mm-hmm.
These are two people who have cared for each other a lot and are going through something that's tough.
Yeah.
And it helped me be able to relate to them. And also, I have to say, I recently moved out of my house, and I'm actually living with my parents right now.
Right. Yeah.
In between, I'm eventually going to be moving to another house, but have to get it ready. And the generational dynamics and having to, walk on eggshells around people. You love these people, but yet you're in such a small space, and you're having to deal with that. That really hit home with me. So I could really, really relate to that.
I think anybody who's ever had an elderly parent or relative live with them, or anybody who's had to live in a close quarters with other family members for any period of time will definitely get a lot out of this movie, because there's some very realistic depictions of that family dynamic and how it changes based on the space around you. It really does. I like this movie too. I thought it was good. I echo you completely on the acting. I like both the leads, but Alfred Molina I thought was just solid. Somebody asked me after the Wednesday night screening which character I enjoyed more, which character I liked and would maybe even want to be around more. I said, absolutely, the Alfred Molina character.
Absolutely.
He had a strength, but yet a real vulnerability to him too. And there was a couple scenes. One scene in particular just still stands out to me. The two men have been separated for probably what's been maybe a few days, not seeing each other, which is probably the first time in their 40 years together they've not seen each other for days on end. And it's raining, it's pouring, there's a huge distance between them across the city. And the Alfred Molina character shows up at the doorstep, basically, of where John Lithgow's character is staying.
Right.
And just because Alfred Molina feels that their situation is mostly his fault, he's taking on that blame, which his partner says, no, we did this together, but still, he's still trying to play that father man role in the relationship,
right?
But yet he has an emotional breakdown. He realizes he might have been the one that kind of brought him to this point. The breakdown that he has at that point just was really powerful, because you're seeing a guy who is a very strong character. We see some real strength from him early in the film when he loses his job.
Yes.
The way he handles that situation.
His firing.
Very strong. Very, very, very well done.
Right.
But yet he just broke down and was very vulnerable at the same time later on. So I love seeing that dynamic, and he played it perfectly. So I really like their performances. And the film in general, I really liked what it was trying to say about the different generations and their views of relationships. We basically have the old couple who have been together for 40 years, very settled on who they are, very comfortable in their own skin, absolutely comfortable in their own skin.
Right.
There never once seemed to be any concern from them that how they're being perceived by the outside world, how people view their relationship, none of that. They could not care less.
Right.
You've got your middle-aged couple, the ones with the kid.
Marissa
Tomei, and I forget the gentleman that plays her husband, but it's Ben's nephew.
Right.
where they have a relationship that seems to be, for the most part, okay, but there's a little cracks and fragments here and some things that typical relationships go through, especially when parenting a teenage kid. And then you've got the young son who is the grandson of, grandnephew of Ben. It's not his grandson.
Right.
He is, because Ben is, his nephew is this Joey's father. So anyway,
Right.
a relationship with this over 2 generations. And you got the young boy who you kind of get the sense through the film is going through some questioning of who he is and what his relationships are meant to be and who he's meant to be with. And just seeing those dynamics I thought was really interesting. I do kind of wish they would have gone a little more with the different generations and getting a little bit more into kind of some of that family dynamics with the husband and wife and with the son Joey. But I like the fact that they kept this film pretty simple and pretty short. So wasn't a whole lot of time to explore those anymore.
Sure.
And I'll say just another like about it. I really like the fact that even though this did have as a story point homosexual marriage and the impact it had in the Catholic Church, which is where Alfred Molina characters worked.
He worked for like a Catholic school.
He worked for a Catholic school as a music teacher. He was let go because he just got married and because of the church's position on gay marriage.
Right.
That could have been, and I was afraid it was going to be, a running plot line throughout the film.
Yeah, right.
And I'm so thankful it wasn't. It was a very powerful scene when he got let go. There was a letter he wrote to the parents later on in the film that you heard over voiceover that was really well done. And that was it. Mm-hmm. That was the only mentions of injustice, feelings of, church versus relationships. I mean, I was very thankful that they didn't go down that path and turn it into a big political injustice type of statement. Yeah. It was all about the relationships and the impact it had on them from that point on.
The use of music in this movie, a lot of it was like Chopin's music and different songs that he'd written. And George was a music teacher, so it made sense. But my favorite scene is one that you referenced, where he's giving a piano lesson to this young little girl, and she plays a song. He's like, "No, you're not really feeling it. Try again." And when she starts playing it again, you see flashes from George thinking about the school, and then you hear his voiceover reading that letter.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you kind of come back and you see George as he's been thinking about that, and you see his facial expressions and everything. Yeah, that was probably my favorite scene probably of the movie.
I could see that absolutely as well. Anything you didn't like about the film?
And it really hit me heavily right after I finished watching the movie. Now I'm a little less harsh or less angry about it.
Okay.
But there was a convention that the filmmaker used where he would do lingering shots.
Yes.
And I did not notice it in the first, I guess, half of the film.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was a succession of 4 different instances where he used lingering shots to. At the first lingering shot, I just thought, oh, he's just showing skyline flashes of New York because Ben was painting it. And I was like, okay, well, it's like he's staring at something and you're watching, okay. But then it became a harbinger of, right after that, a major event happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another instance at outside a diner, and something major happened after that. And so it got on my nerves. There was like, oh, here's a lingering shot. Why are they doing this other than just to have a lingering shot? Oh, it's because something major is about to happen.
And by lingering shot, what we're talking about is a shot where the scene has happened. Maybe the characters have left the scene, or we're just kind of following them, but the shot just continues to go on, either showing us what was in the scene before the character left, or just the characters have exited the frame and we're still just lingering on that. Perfect example was towards the end, Ben and George have just had a date and they're leaving and go back to their separate places. One's at the top of a subway stairs. The other one goes down the subway stairs. The other one leaves the frame, but yet the shot still just kind of hangs on that diner and the subway entrance for like a good another 10, 12 seconds, probably.
Making you think the movie was ending right there.
Yeah, and it had a real slow fade out, but then you do find out in the next scene kind of what was standing.
Right.
That didn't bother me as bad. I always like when films take their time. I did notice a little more longer shots than normal throughout the rest of the film. Okay. I will agree. It was used a lot more extensively at the end than the rest of the film. But I do like it when films feel like they can not feel this need to just quick cut to the next shot so quickly. Your concern was just it seemed to be more of a device at the end,
right?
To kind of either play with emotions or kind of give you some sort of sense of something else going on.
Yeah, it wasn't. It'd be the same as if you were watching a biopic movie and all of a sudden the strings come in. You're like, oh, this is about to be a really triumphant speech the guy's about to deliver, which is very heavy-handed.
Sure.
And this, at the offset, before I knew what was going on, wasn't. But because I said I noticed a series of 4, by the time I got to that 4th one, I was rolling my eyes. I was like, okay.
Okay. All right.
So,
well, interesting enough. Anything else about the film you didn't care for?
No, that's a pretty minor thing.
Yeah.
And as I say, it's diminished now that I reflect back on it. I've had some distance. Yeah. But that really was the only other thing that I didn't like about it.
And I'm not going to say this as a dislike, but I didn't think the part of Elliot, which is what I'm looking up now, which was Ben's nephew, the father of the young boy.
Father of Joey. Okay.
I didn't think his performance, when you're surrounded by so many strong performances, I just didn't think his held up as well.
I'll give you that. I'd never seen that actor. I don't believe in anything else.
I hadn't either.
And I felt like he was
a little out of place.
Yeah.
It just didn't quite hold up.
You've got these heavyweight acting guys.
Well, and Marissa Tomei I thought was good. I didn't like her character, but I thought she played her character really well.
Agreed. I thought the boy, Joey,
he was
really
good. He was very good. There was a little bit of a side character with Mindy, who was, I guess, a sister of the Elliot character I just mentioned. Okay. So it would have been Joey's aunt and would have been Ben's niece. It's just hers was kind of meant to be a little bit more of the, not necessarily comedic relief, but more of the stereotype role. Right. And I thought her role didn't fit the rest of the film. The rest of the film was so authentic. Mm-hmm. Hers was a little more of the nails on the chalkboard character, and I thought it didn't fit as well. Sure. But none of those roles made a major impact on the film performance and quality overall. But I did like it. I really liked it, and I thought performances were just really, really stellar, and it made a good film.
A film that this reminded me of, this film did come out in 2014, and I guess The Interview barely came out in 2014.
Yes.
But we've discussed it, Boyhood, and believe it or not, this film actually reminded me of Boyhood.
It was just better.
I agree. But Boyhood, the cool thing about that was the way it was shot over 12 years, and we discussed it on a previous episode. But what I liked about this film, as you've kind of touched on, the natural, everyday nature of the film, but what made it different from Boyhood was I felt like it had a lot to say about the interactions with family rather than just being reflective.
Exactly.
Like Boyhood, I felt like it was just a mirror. Yep. And it was like, take what you can take. And okay, wasn't it cool we shot over 12 years? Which, yes, it was. But this had more than just showing a reflection. It was making you think about, it had a lot more meat about what it was going on with the interactions.
I absolutely agree. Well, good. I'm glad we're on the same page with this. So both of us do encourage you to check out Love is Strange. It's a good movie. It's available on iTunes for rental or for rent by the time this episode comes out. It's for purchase right now.
Right.
Definitely worth checking out. I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's going to get any Oscar nominations, which is a shame because I think Alfred Molina should have gotten one.
Okay, one final thought kind of too on it. Alan, after seeing Love is Strange, are you interested in the director Ira Sachs' previous films? Would you seek them out?
I'm not going to seek them out, but if I stumbled across one, I would watch it. Okay. There was nothing really directorial about this that really stood out at me to where I want to feel like I'm more interested in now seeing anything else Alfred Molina's done than I am seeing the director Ira Sachs, what he's done.
Got you.
So, but I will say if I get a chance to see one of his other films and it's available for me, I probably would watch it because it seems like from what I've read, a lot of his films have to do with this, the impact of love and relationships on people and the people around them. So I like where he's going with that. And if the other films are of this quality, sure, I'd love to see them. Yeah. But more than anything, I think I'm looking up IMDb to say, okay, now what Alfred Molina films are really good that I haven't seen?
Right.
And I'd actually forgotten that he was the original Raiders of the Lost Ark. He is the guy that enters the cave with Indy at the beginning and toss me the rope, throw me the idol, and I'll toss you the rope. That was him. So,
wow.
Yeah. Huh. And the guy who
I don't think now that you
meets his untimely end.
It's totally him.
Oh yeah,
wow.
That's him.
Okay.
One of his first roles, big American roles, I think. So
sure.
Yeah. Cool. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll hit some movie news items, and we'll end up with our recommendation for the month. So stay tuned. Actually, not for the month. We do 2 a month now. So of the week, the bi-weeks, whatever you want to call it, of the episode. We'll say our recommendations of the episode. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with Footcandle Films.
We'll get back to your show in a moment. Just a reminder, you're listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Find out more at themesh.tv and give us feedback on what you like. And now, as promised, back to your show.
Welcome back to Footcandle Films here on themesh.tv. And for those of you that maybe are new to the show or new to the world of podcasting or online streaming audio, The Mesh is a network, just like your CBS, just like your ABC, all these networks of shows. We put them out on the internet as The Mesh. You can go to themesh.tv, listen to any of the shows you'd like to. Most of them are audio, although we have a couple video ones sprinkled in there as well. But more importantly, the way a podcast really is meant to work is you subscribe to it. What it means is that when you subscribe to a show, every time we put out a new episode, it is automatically sent to your podcast program, whether it's iTunes, whether it's Podcatcher, whether it's a whole bunch of other ones you can get. A lot of mobile phones, you can get a podcast app to subscribe to podcast. So what we'd really like for you to do, if you enjoy the show or even if you hate it, but you want to see how much worse we can get, you subscribe to the show. That way you can hear every episode and critique us all day long.
Right.
Go to iTunes and search for us on the podcast store or just the iTunes store in general. If you search for Footcandle Films, we're going to pop up right at the top. Or just keep going to themesh.tv and you can listen to all the shows right there from the website without having to do any subscription. Whatever you choose to do, we just appreciate the support and interest in what we're doing. We've got some great listeners, we've got some great shows, and we've got some great plans for 2015. So thanks for being along for the ride. Chris, let's go ahead and jump into a little bit of movie news. Some things happening that were of interest to us, or maybe directors or actors or projects that we find interesting. You got a couple for us, so why don't you go ahead and hit us with the first one?
Sure. DC Comics.
I'm familiar with them. Yes.
Familiar with them?
Mm-hmm.
I think they have in the works what is going to be their answer to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
And let me explain. Guardians of the Galaxy, Marvel movie, we reviewed it, and it was kind of the dark horse of the Marvel universe. Like, lots of people didn't know what it was, had never heard of it, came out and was a big success.
Mm-hmm.
I think DC and Warner Brothers have something cooked up for August of 2016 that'll be the same big hit. And what I'm referring to is the Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I think this, you're nodding your head, you're familiar with it. I was not. I'd never heard of it. But basically what it is there's a super team of villains and, people you would know, like the Joker, who are released from prison and they're commanded by somebody. And basically what they do is they take on this, top secret mission to, I don't know what they do, but they go and the government lets them out of prison to go complete a mission to lessen their sentence or whatever. And so I think it sounds like an interesting premise. It's like an Ocean's 11, but of bad guys.
Right.
It sounds interesting. The people that they have attached to the film, Jared Leto as the Joker, who I think is perfect as the Joker.
Yes.
Perfect. Will Smith is Deadshot. Not as familiar with, I know who Mr. Smith is. Not as familiar with who Deadshot is, though.
And I'll tell you, I'm not really familiar with any of these characters either, except for, of course, the Joker and Harley Quinn.
Okay, they've cast her.
They did.
Okay.
That is going to be, oh gosh, you call me on the carpet here. Wolf of Wall Street female. Shoot, what is her name?
I don't know, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Blonde-haired lady.
Yes, she is going to be Harley Quinn.
Okay.
Which is funny because Will Smith and this girl, Margot, either her first or last name is Margot.
Okay.
They're in a movie together coming out called Focus about a con artist thing.
Okay.
So it's kind of interesting that they're now on this film together too. Yeah.
And the other person attached to it is Tom Hardy as the leader of this group. Rick Flag is the name. So I'm hopeful. I kind of always, for some reason, like bad guys in movies. Those are the people not that I care about, but I think are the most interesting. So a movie that's filled of bad guys doing this kind of random thing of trying to pull off a government mission, I think is interesting. I think it's really cool. I think it could be a a huge success for
Could be.
DC.
Could be.
How do you feel about it? You seem to be very skeptical about it.
Well, I'm skeptical of DC films through Warner Brothers in general right now. I was on record as not enjoying Man of Steel, really, being very disappointed by it. It was probably one of my biggest disappointments that year. I'm not sure where things are heading with the whole Batman versus Superman thing they're trying to pull off.
They're going to have the same guy directing it and the same person playing Superman.
Yeah, Zack Snyder in general, I really liked his work on Watchmen.
Okay.
But since then, I haven't enjoyed anything.
Did you like
I've seen.
300?
It was take it or leave it. I didn't care either way.
Gotcha.
So, I think it's a good concept, although I'm just curious. I mean, normally you kind of dip into these B-level characters and doing the whole anti-hero thing after you've really got a good, firm universe of heroes established. And DC hasn't quite got that yet on film. Here in the next year, we're going to have Batman. We've already got Superman, but that's it so far.
We're going to have Wonder Woman because she's in the
She'll be a
Batman
cameo in it or a little small part or something. But, we're still building it up. But to throw the Suicide Squad in so early and to reintroduce the Joker so early, that's a little bit of a concern of mine. Anybody who plays the Joker right now has got, unfortunately, which is not right, they're going to be compared to Heath Ledger. I wouldn't have minded having a little bit more time before we saw a new Joker, but I do agree with you. I think Jared Leto is the perfect role for it.
Gotcha.
So if they're going to do it, so be it. Jared Leto is the right guy to do it. This has a chance to be something really cool, but I don't like the way Warner Brothers and DC are playing out their universe quite yet. It's not working for me like Marvel's universe has. So
Okay.
comic book geek. Quote out. I'm done. So that's it.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. So I've got a topic I wanted to bring up about a film that you and I talked about earlier this week.
Okay.
I am a big David O. Russell fan, especially as of late. I liked his older stuff too.
Okay.
But I really have liked recent movies. Silver Linings Playbook, The Fighter, American Hustle.
Okay.
I really do like all those movies.
All right.
I liked his earlier films too. I thought Three Kings was good.
Three Kings.
I liked the Ben Stiller
Flirting with Disaster.
So in general, I really have liked his films. I Heart Huckabees. I'm a big David O. Russell fan.
Sure.
So lo and behold, when I heard just this week that, oh, look, there's a film that David O. Russell started back in 2008. And just in case you're counting years, that's 7 years ago. Making a film with Jessica Biel.
James Marsden.
With James Marsden, with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Right.
And Tracy Morgan, which I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And it's a movie that when it started, it was called Nailed. And the whole premise is that a young woman gets a nail embedded in her head, which causes her to have outbursts and just some little instability in her life. And she then becomes a force for trying to get some, I think, legislation passed or something. I haven't really read the plot too deep.
Sure.
But that's not really what's that important to me. What's important to me is David O. Russell shot this film, almost all of it, along with writing it with Al Gore's daughter, who is...
which is pretty random in itself.
Pretty random. He wrote it with Kristen Gore, who's Al Gore's daughter. I think Kristen Gore, if I'm remembering correctly, might have also helped write episodes of Futurama and some other animation comedy. So she is a comedy writer.
Okay.
Well, the movie faced a lot of hardships. It ran into a lot of financial difficulties. And at the end of the day, David O. Russell left. Now, David O. Russell's a hothead. Everything I've ever heard about him. He and George Clooney supposedly got into fistfights on the set of Three Kings.
Okay.
Because Russell is supposedly a very volatile director. So I'm imagining if production's not going smooth, the money's not there, he's frustrated, he walks. Or he got forced off or something. Who knows?
Sure.
Nobody's really talking about the details of what happened.
Right.
Supposedly a guy was brought in to just fill in the missing gaps of footage, and then they went and edited the film and made it. They have finally got around to saying they're going to release it.
Okay.
But it's under a new name. It's called Accidental Love, which is stupid.
Yeah.
Man, these watered-down names just kill me. It is going to be coming out on demand in February, like next month. Okay. So next month, to know that I'm going to get to see a new David O. Russell film, kind of, it's pretty awesome to think that it's just one coming out. And he's actually working on a film right now, a real, like his film,
right,
with his new muse, I guess, Jennifer Lawrence, talking about her as a modeled after a real life TV infomercial queen, someone who's kind of built an empire off of infomercials.
And she does like mops.
I think so.
Okay.
So I'm excited about that, as always. But just kind of knowing there's a film there, I'm really going to be curious to see, did this remain a David O. Russell film with the script and with the shooting he did, or did it really fall apart in the in the post-production process or not? It'll be really interesting to see. David O. Russell's gone on record saying it's a hilarious movie. He thinks the performances that Jake Gyllenhaal, Tracy Morgan put in were really, really funny and really good. So he's a fan of the film. He says it's good stuff. Just he's actually got a pseudonym attached to it as directed by another person's name. I forget the person's name, but
now if they just couldn't put he wouldn't let his name be put on
I don't
it,
know.
Or that for legal reasons because we don't know.
We're not sure. And he even is quoted as saying, I can't get into it more than that for legal reasons. But let me just say it is really weird because I got to know and love these actors. I got to love the state of South Carolina, which is where it was filmed.
Oh, wow.
And so he's disappointed he's not associated with it. But I don't know if it's a money deal. I don't know if it's he got kicked off deal. I don't know. But regardless, in about a month's time, there's going to be a new, somewhat David O. Russell film online for us to check out. Watching a Jake Gyllenhaal that looks about 7 years younger than he does now. And it'll be interesting. Very interesting. Well, Any thoughts on it? I mean, are you intrigued at all? Or
I am. I'm not. I am more of a fan of David O. Russell's earlier stuff.
Sure.
His high point for me was I Heart Huckabees.
Okay.
I really, really, really liked that movie.
Sure.
I thought The Fighter was just kind of straightforward and didn't really think much of it. Was really let down by Silver Linings Playbook.
Wow.
There again, I think we reviewed that on the show as well.
And I think we disagreed on it.
So I can't remember what episode number is, but if you want to hear that argument, go look back to our catalog. I did like American Hustle, though.
Yeah, I remember you did. I think you and I were kind of, you might have even liked it a little bit more than me. I mean, I liked it. I was a little let down because I love Silver Linings Playbook so much.
Right.
This one was a little bit of a step down, but I still liked it, though. It was a good movie.
To me, looking at the trailer, because you mentioned we were going to be talking about this, said check out the trailer. I actually thought the trailer looked good.
Yeah. It looked funny.
It did look funny, which for a comedy, that's one of the main things, Is it going to be funny? I don't know. I feel like it's more along the I Heart Huckabees route. I guess I saw some commenting online that people were worried that they had taken David O. Russell's content and in the editing watered it down, and the trailer made it look like a Farrelly Brothers movie, and they kind of dumbed it up, I guess is a simple way to put it. I mean, who knows until you actually see the movie. But I am genuinely interested in seeing it. So.
Well, it's nice knowing that we'll probably be able to pay a rental fee to see it online for $4 or $5 instead of having to go find it in a movie theater somewhere. That is one of the nice advantages of having an online film distribution model, is that these kind of films they would never get released to a theater. Sure. His film will not get released to a theater based on the production it went through and all that. But because of online, we will get to see it and kind of make a judgment on how we feel about it, which is cool.
Yeah,
always
absolutely.
a good thing. Absolutely. So what's the last item you got for us there?
Well, the last thing I have is, Alan, did you we reviewed it on the show, or maybe I did, can't remember. James Ponsell, who's the writer-director of The Spectacular Now, did we review it, or did you just see it at some point?
I did see The Spectacular Now, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I did really like it.
Okay. Well, the next movie he's doing is going to star Tom Hanks. Mm-hmm. And it's based on an adaptation of a book by David Eggers, and the name of the book is The Circle, which David Eggers is kind of a quirky dude himself. And it's the story of a woman who's giving up her private life, giving all her anonymity away to work at a giant internet monopoly, and it is called The Circle. And I don't know if Tom Hanks plays her boss there, and I don't think they've tied someone who's going to be the woman playing in the movie. Mm-hmm. But just the fact that it's James Ponsell, who did The Spectacular Now, and now he has Tom Hanks, and he's in this movie. Are you interested?
I did really like The Spectacular Now.
And it's a totally different type of movie also from Spectacular
I think
Now.
it sounds intriguing. I'm not a huge Tom Hanks fan. I mean, I admire him.
Really?
But I'm not somebody who says, I've got to see the next Tom Hanks movie. Okay. I like him. I admire him, but he's just not one of my top tier actors that I watch. Is that surprising?
I think I'm a little surprised by that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would think, I mean, not that I run out and see every movie he's in, but in general, if he's in a movie, I'll be like, okay, I think there's something there. I feel like he's one of those people that I feel like is really well established, and I love Michael Caine, I love Morgan Freeman, but he's not a paycheck actor.
Oh no, he's definitely not. I'll tell you what, I mean.
And
I just wish he hadn't done those freaking Da Vinci Code movies. That's it for me. That was what killed me. That was probably the biggest paycheck movie he's done.
Okay. Well, I don't feel like the first one was but then I think it was just doing it, and then he maybe thought it was going. But the second one I could kind of agree because it's the whole sequel thing. Okay, I'd forgotten about.
He did those for paychecks. I think that's the only ones he did for paychecks.
Right. And I like Morgan Freeman in a good role. He's awesome. But I feel like sometimes, why not? If somebody wants to pay me to be in a movie and I think it's dumb, sure, I'll do it.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to judge these actors if somebody wants to wave a big fat check in their face for 2 or 3 days of filming. Yeah, do it.
But I feel like he's not one of those. And I think that the projects he usually decides to do are, have a lot of potential and have he did Road to Perdition.
Yeah, he's more selective. I give him that.
The Terminal, which was that kind of weird Steven Spielberg movie that took place in an airport. He does these.
Have you seen any of his recent films?
Catch Me If You Can.
Other than Captain Phillips, have you seen any of his recent films? I know there was the one he did with Julia Roberts where he directed it. It was where he was. It was like a person's name. His character's name was the name of the film.
Charlie Wilson's War? No.
Well, that was another one I was going to ask you about. That was another film. That was Mike Nichols, I believe. That might have been his last film.
I saw Charlie Wilson's War and I saw Captain Phillips, but other than that, I don't know.
Hold on, let me pull up IMDb.
Yes. And I really thought he did a good job in Captain Phillips.
And I did not see Captain Phillips, so I did have to kind of give you that. I did not see him in
Prior to that, the work that he did that I was very impressed with was the stuff he did for Cloud Atlas. Which, did you ever catch up with Cloud Atlas?
I have not seen Cloud Atlas.
Okay, because he had to do multiple roles in that.
Well, here's his recent films.
Okay.
Saving Mr. Banks, which I have not seen.
Yeah, that was good.
Captain Phillips, I have not seen.
Okay, so
Cloud Atlas, I have not seen.
Okay.
Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. Larry Crown, that's the one I'm thinking about. Larry Crown. This film he did with Julia Roberts that I believe he directed as well.
I do not remember or have heard and definitely have not seen Extremely. Yeah, I had problems with the Extremely.
See, I think that's the issue. Charlie Wilson's War was back in 2007. That was right after the Da Vinci Code, which I did not like.
Right.
Then Charlie Wilson's War came out. I did not see and didn't really have any desire to. Then Angels and Demons came out, which I did not want to see.
Right.
Then, other than the Toy Story movies, now those were all sprinkled in, which I saw all those.
Right.
Then he did Larry Crown, which I did not see. Then he did Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. I did not see. Then he did Cloud Atlas.
For the life of me, I cannot remember. I think he just plays the father in that Incredibly Loud.
He does.
Which is not a huge role.
No, it's more of a supporting role, I think.
Right,
but
okay.
The last big movie that he was recognized for and all that was Captain Phillips. Before Captain Phillips,
but see,
he was not recognized, really got any recognition for being acting in a good film, all the way going back to, oh my gosh, he did The Terminal and The Lady Killers right before he did The Polar Express. Catch Me If You Can. Okay, Catch Me If You Can is the last good Tom Hanks movie performance I've seen.
Right.
Now, I think it's the last one he's done.
Some of his more recent stuff,
but it's the last one I've seen, and that was back in 2002.
Right.
So I guess that's why he's not high on my list right now.
Yeah, you need to catch up with some more recent stuff. I'm not saying it's all good, but
I will say the time period where he did Saving Private Ryan, he did The Green Mile, he did Castaway, and he did Road to Perdition, and then Catch Me If You Can. Okay, that was a really good, solid run of films. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I'm with you there. But since 2002, I just haven't seen anything enough to make me think that he's an actor I care to follow too much.
Sure.
Okay. But anyway, I'm interested. Sure. The Spectacular Now was a nice surprise for me.
Okay.
I thought it was going to be a teen romance, one of those adaptation things of kind of a young adult novel. And it was. I mean, it was a good movie with some really good performances. And I think the director, working with younger actors like he did, I think did a great job of carrying that along.
First time I got to see Shailene Woodley, other than in The Descendants. So,
And Miles Teller, I know he had been in some other movies, but that was really the first time I really noticed him as an actor. So,
right.
I'm ready. Let's bring it on. Let's see.
Well, yeah,
now, Tom Hanks is also doing a film, another one with Steven Spielberg.
And it's written by the Coen brothers.
Yeah. Now, when I heard that, I'm like, okay. I like Spielberg. I like old Spielberg. I like old Tom Hanks. All right, now you tell me you're going to throw the Coen Brothers script in here as well. Okay, let's talk. This could be interesting. That is Untitled. Untitled Cold War spy thriller is the official name of the film.
Actually, hearing the subject matter is the only thing that worries me.
An American lawyer is recruited by the CIA during the Cold War to rescue a pilot detained in the Soviet Union.
Yeah, that to me does not. It's just kind of like, wah, wah, but you tell me the people involved, and I'm interested.
Directed by Steven Spielberg, based on a script by the Coen Brothers. Yep. I'm good. Sign me up. Cool. Okay, I know wasn't going to have another news item, but I just want to highlight 2 trailers.
Okay.
For you that I want to hear your opinions on.
Other than Accidental Love, which people should check out.
You need to check out the trailer for Accidental Love because it does hopefully highlight what will be a good film. The trailer for Ant-Man came out this week, the next Marvel movie coming out next summer.
Actual size trailer or the ant size trailer?
No, well, this is the actual full size trailer and the full 2-minute long video.
Okay, I have not seen that.
They did the teaser.
I saw the teaser ant size trailer, which I was like,
and then they did human size like the next day.
Okay,
that was a teaser for the trailer, which I think is stupid. But the trailer came out.
Okay,
interesting. Where you've got Paul Rudd as the lead. It's based on a kind of a quirky concept of a guy who could shrink down to the size of an ant and rides an ant around. It was the film where it belonged to another director, Edgar Wright, which a lot of high anticipation of what he was going to do with a Marvel superhero movie.
Right.
And then he walked away because of creative differences with Marvel.
Right.
So now we have Peyton Reed, who, a good director, has done some good stuff. I know you've got some personal connections with.
I do. His mom taught me middle school English.
Yep. So there is a little bit of a North Carolina connection with Mr. Reed.
He went to UNC Chapel Hill.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so he's done some good movies. Mm-hmm. He took on the Ant-Man directorial role. They brought in extra writers to help out, and actually one of the writers they brought, and I'm drawing a blank, he's the guy that's 40-year-old virgin, knocked up. I'm talking about some of the Will Ferrell movies.
Yes.
He's been involved with.
Right.
And I'm drawing a blank. Is it Adam? It's not Adam, is it?
Adam McKay.
Adam McKay.
Yep.
Came in to help write it, which is great.
Yeah.
He and Paul Rudd have worked together on films before, Anchorman and all that. So they kind of got together and worked writing together. So automatically you assume this is going to be more of a comedic Marvel movie. The trailer doesn't really go there. The trailer is actually kind of very straightforward superhero dramatic stuff, except for a couple light moments of some dialogue by Paul Rudd. So I don't know where they're going with this tone-wise. I'm kind of curious. But after Guardians of the Galaxy, I've got a much more of an open mind on where Marvel wants to go with their films, and even the ones that don't sound like they're going to be as interesting could be a nice surprise. So
Peyton Reed's, I'm a fan. I liked Bring It On, the cheerleading movie.
Yeah, it was actually it was a good movie.
Down with Love, I think is awesome. And The Breakup, I also really, really like.
Yeah, I didn't care for that as much, but yeah, I could see it definitely had a lot more going for it.
So I'm interested to see him being able to do a Marvel superhero.
Have you seen the trailer?
No. Yeah. I'll have to look up the
trailer.
I did. I follow him on Twitter. And I saw he had jokingly, I guess, released the ant-sized trailer. So I saw it and I was like, huh? I was like, oh, I get it. So then, no, I never saw the actual full-size trailer. So I'll have to check that out.
Yep.
Okay.
And one other trailer that I'm just more interested in your thoughts, Chris, and maybe if you can plan on seeing it if you haven't already seen it before the next recording, and let me know your thoughts. So we're both a big fan of the documentary Man on Wire that was done.
I have seen the trailer.
You have seen the trailer?
Yeah.
I hate the trailer. The first half of the trailer, and let me just describe the trailer for this film.
Okay.
This is the one is called The Walk now.
Right.
Robert Zemeckis is doing this with Gordon Levitt.
Joseph
Gordon-Levitt. And this is about the real life story of the man who did the hire wire between the two world trade towers,
right?
Trade center towers, back in the 70s, early 80s, somewhere in that time period.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
And so now Robert Zemeckis is doing a dramatization film of this. And the trailer is just, it's zooming a camera up the side of the building with words flying at you and this dramatic music. And it's all about 3D and everything. I'm like, oh, God, they're going to turn this into more of a visual spectacle than they are a story of a character. Now, granted, I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I'm sure he'll be fine playing. Is it Petite?
Yeah.
Yep. I'm sure he'll be fine. in Zemeckis, I like classic Zemeckis. I have not seen Flight, and I know that was a good movie that you said.
I've recommended it on the show.
Okay.
I was just about to say, yeah, the trailer is kind of garbage.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they're just doing that to get butts in seats because they're showing like, oh, this will be very IMAX, 3D. Look at how high up he's doing. Like,
but as soon as I saw that trailer start, I'm like, oh, that's not the tone of the film I want. I hope that is just to get some buzz for it and not the way the film is going to be played all for the visual spectacle of it. So
if I hadn't seen Flight and if Joseph Gordon-Levitt wasn't attached, then I'd probably write this off 100%. But, I thought Flight was really strong. And, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So, trailer is garbage.
All right. Well, a couple trailers I just thought were interesting. Maybe a little surprising or disappointing. Either way. All right, Chris. I think that's all the news we've got. Why don't we move right on into our recommendations where we like to talk about a film that we've either recently caught back up with or maybe we remember from the past that we want to bring back attention to. Chris, what have you got to recommend for us this episode?
I'm going to recommend a indie film that's a prison drama. Mm-hmm. Came out in 2013, but I think it was released here in 2014, called Start Up.
Okay, and you did catch up with this. Huh?
I did, yeah. It's a troubled and explosively violent teenager is transferred to an adult prison, and it's about his experiences there. And basically, the title Start Up comes from basically if you're in a prison, like a juvenile prison, and you get in trouble or you do really violent things, they move you up in the prison system to a more adult place because it's like kind of sending you more to a maximum security place because you are a troubled, messed up individual.
Right.
So in this movie, it's the newcomer, Jack O'Connell, who plays the violent teenager. I think it is maybe his first role, and he's in the movie that Angelina Jolie has out right now.
Unbroken?
Unbroken. Mm-hmm. He plays the star character in that.
Right.
I haven't seen that movie, but this was like one of his first roles, and he is really good as a very troubled person. The other person that is in this film that I kind of, somebody that you might not recognize his name, but I think if you saw his face, you'd definitely recognize him, Ben Mendelsohn. Mm-hmm. And he was in another film with Brad Pitt, the crime movie that came out semi-recently, Killing Them Softly.
Okay, all right.
And he has a really big role.
Now, is he in Animal Kingdom?
Yes.
Okay,
I think he's also
in
that.
Yeah.
I think he's in that.
Yeah.
But he was in Killing Them Softly with Brad Pitt, and he had a big role in there. And he is just an actor that I've really come to know that I like, and I can't wait to see. I think I need to go on like a Ben Mendelsohn watching spree and watch some of his other work because he's really good. And he plays the boy's father, who is also in the same prison. And their interactions, not your typical, as you can imagine, father-son relationship. I will say, I think it is a good movie, but it is tough to watch. It is very upsetting. It's also very violent. Not particularly happy. I mean, these are people in prison that have done some bad things. But it is a solid movie, and those are two really good performances in the movie. So, not for everyone, but...
Start Up. I'd heard some good things about it and heard a little bit. I know I got to kind of steel myself up to watch it, I think, one time. It's on Netflix, I believe, right?
It may be now. I actually caught up with it. It was on iTunes.
Maybe it's just iTunes. I get them blended together sometimes.
Sure.
So, well, I'm going to recommend a film mainly for its style, not necessarily to say that it's the most impressive film, but I think the style and the way the actors went through the film, which I'll talk about here in a moment.
Okay.
The film's Drinking Buddies from 2013. Joe Swanberg, both the director and writer. You've got Anna Kendrick, you've got Olivia Wilde, you got Jake Johnson from New Girl on TV, and a couple other film roles he's had is pretty good. And Ron Livingston, who I always liked a lot. I think he's a good actor. The four of them, they're basically all the real characters in the film, with two of them working at a little microbrewery. And all it is about the relationships between these four characters. You've got Luke and Kate, played by Olivia Wilde and Jake Johnson, who are good buddies, hanging all the time, drinking buddies, hence the title. And then each of them have their own relationship with somebody else, but then there's always a little bit of back and forth and will they, won't they kind of get together type of thing.
Sure.
The film itself is fine. It's what I really admired about it is what I read up about the film more. The film is almost completely improvised.
Okay.
So every piece of dialogue was improvisational.
And that's kind of a Swanberg
It is.
hallmark. Okay.
It's kind of just saying, okay, here's the deal. This just happened. Talk, And knowing that, and actually me thinking that the performances were pretty solid in the film, I enjoyed watching these characters, made me think, wow, that's pretty cool. I like that style of filmmaking. It gets into a little bit of what I guess they're considering the whole mumblecore thing a little bit, where it's just kind of just people overlapping, talking, and it's just kind of letting it roll, and there's a lot of improvisation. And I think if you want to kind of tiptoe your way into that concept of mumblecore films, this is probably a good place to start.
Good starting point.
Because it's a good, simple film. It's really straightforward. It's some good performances. Suppose I read there's a scene where Olivia Wilde's character is drunk at their cabin that they're staying while they're playing some card games. And she really was drunk because that just seemed to be a more natural way to play that. And I mean, it shows because I really felt like everything was very realistic. The things they said to each other, the way they reacted. When the two best friends got really upset and angry with each other, it was very, very real feeling.
Okay.
So I liked it. Did I like the story as much? Did I like the way it ended? No, not really so much. But I will say, I think from an acting standpoint, if you want to see how improvisation can be done on screen with some pretty good, talented actors, this is a good way, a showcase to see that. So that's Drinking Buddies. It is on Netflix. So if you have Netflix, you can watch it right away for free. It's a good movie. And Swanberg, I know, he makes a lot of films. I mean, I think he's very prolific. I think right after this one, he made another one, Happy Christmas, which I have not seen yet.
And it's also on Netflix.
Okay. So he's just kind of churning them out, which is kind of cool as well. So I think that should be it for us then, huh? Yeah. I think 2 reviews, The Interview and Love is Strange, which surprisingly, we liked both of them. You liked The Interview even probably more than I did, mainly because of the Franco factor is what I'm going to call it now.
The Franco factor.
The Franco factor is in high effect. And then we've got some news we covered, and then we have 2 recommendations. We've got the film Startup that Chris recommended, and Drinking Buddies that I shared with everybody. So with that, Chris, we have Oscar nominations being announced here in the next couple weeks.
Yep.
So basically, by the time we get together for our next episode, we will know the Oscar nominations, correct?
This is true.
Okay.
We should.
So plan on in our next episode, we will definitely have some thoughts. Maybe we'll kind of pick apart some of the nominations during our news segment. But we definitely start to get a little ramped up to see where things are going with this. Then when the Oscars happen in late February, the very next show we record after that, we will try to see how we did with our own predictions. Now, are we going to have predictions? We may not have them ready like right after the announcement of the nominations
we may have to
here.
Kind of wait and let it.
It may be the first February episode we give our predictions, and then the second February episode we see how we did.
Sure.
How's that? So we always look forward to it. Yeah, it's Oscar awards. It doesn't necessarily mean these are the best films and these are the best performances, but it is something fun for us to kind of bounce off of and say, were they right? Were they wrong? What would have been our choices?
It's the film geek fantasy football. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. And in the end of the day, it's still Hollywood, and there's still going to be winners and that we don't all agree with, but so be it. That's the name of the game.
Absolutely.
So we'll look forward to that. That'll be kind of a recurring topic over the next probably 3 to 4 episodes, I'm sure. The whole Oscar season in general. With that, we don't know the film we'll be reviewing in February, but we'll keep that as a surprise for everybody as well, at least 1 or 2 films. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take our time off and sign off here. And thanks a lot for listening. Chris, if anybody wanted to kind of get in touch with us or find out more about us, where all can they go online?
Well, you can go to themesh.tv, which is where not only our podcast is hosted, but as Alan mentioned, we have tons of other podcasts, but you can go to our page on there. You can send us an email at info@themesh.tv. If you have questions for us, just kind of mention that you do, and they'll send it our way. Also, you and I are both on Letterboxd. So, you can follow kind of the recent movies we've been watching. Sometimes we write little mini reviews. Also, iTunes, we appreciate, reviews on there. Give us star ratings or write comments and stuff like that. Every little bit helps.
Yeah,
so.
Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you thought the interview should have gotten the 1-star review that some of our iTunes reviewers gave it. Or if you got anything else to say about any of the other films. Hey, if you check out the Accidental Love trailer, or Nailed as I think it should still be called, let us know your thoughts on that too. We'd love to hear from you. All right, we're going to sign off then. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch you next time.
See you in the ticket line.
Watch news through the courtesy of Footcandle Film Society.
Special thanks to Carpal Tuller for the show theme music. For more about carpal tunnel, visit www.carpaltunnel.com. You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.